Now, the first advanced unmanned combat aerial vehicles will be manufactured in India with leading aeronautical entity Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, set to formalize a partnership with an Israeli firm that specializes in autonomous weaponry. The advanced Heron TP, which belongs to the medium altitude long endurance class with an endurance of over 36 hours, will be manufactured to cater both to Indian requirements for a combat UAV and possibly exports to third nations in the future as well. According to a report in the Economic Times, HAL is set to sign a partnership pact with the Israel Aerospace Industries at the ongoing DEF Expo 2020 in Lucknow this week, with estimates that in the Indian market alone, there is a requirement of at least 100 drones of this type. The Heron TP is an advanced version of the Heron UAVs that are currently in service, with the three forces in a reconnaissance role. On this edition of Security Scan, we will take a closer look at unmanned combat aerial vehicles. Joining me on the program today are Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur, retired, Additional Director General, Center for Air Power Studies; Lieutenant General B.S. Pawar, retired, Aerospace Defense Expert; and Sudhir Ranjan Sen, Senior Editor, Hindustan Times. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Security Scan. AVM Bahadur, let me start the program with you. Let's first try and understand what unmanned aerial combat vehicles are, and what is the use of them, and how are they going to help us and our security forces?
Okay, first of all, there is a difference between an armed UAV and an unmanned combat aerial vehicle. An armed UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle on which you slap on weapons. The Heron TP that we are talking of is technically an armed UAV because it carries air-to-ground missiles. An unmanned combat aerial vehicle is a futuristic design that was coming up in various countries that are there, and HAL is in the process with an Indian startup firm called New Space Research to make an unmanned combat aerial vehicle later in this decade, which will be of a class which does combat in the sense. Now I come to the unmanned combat aerial vehicle. A UCAV can do combat in the real sense, like what a fighter aircraft can possibly do. That means it carries air-to-air missiles, air-to-ground missiles. It can maneuver on its own as per an algorithm that is fed into it, or it is controlled by somebody on the ground remotely, or by another pilot in a manned aircraft. That takes us to manned unmanned teaming. So generally the concept is going to be of a manned aircraft controlling unmanned vehicles, combat aerial vehicles. They will go as a man-unmanned team into missions. Because the danger is that at least at present, those machine intelligence and machine learning are really advancing very fast, and UCAVs would come under the category of lethal autonomous weapon systems, LAWS. And the world is concerned about it, as man is trying to give the capability to machines to decide on a target and take a decision to kill. So in the true sense, in the ultimate sense, an unmanned combat aerial vehicle would be a vehicle, if it comes to that, if mankind decides on doing this, in my view, an unethical thing of letting a machine decide what's its target and taking a decision to kill.
And as machines get smarter, is the problem also going to multiply then?
It is. In fact, in 2016, the world is already so concerned. In 2016, the United Nations has formed a government group of ministers which is trying to regulate these lethal autonomous weapon systems. UCAV is one of them, and robotics, of course, the ground vehicles, etc. So the world is concerned, the United Nations is concerned, but the catch is technology has developed so far already that you can't stop it, the march of technology. And the countries, the US and Russia, are vehemently opposed. They have a very contrived argument to say that an intelligent machine can intelligently discriminate between a real target and a so as to avoid collateral damage, and they're using this as an argument.
Yeah.
China, if I can just add, at present says, okay, we agree to a ban, but no ban on research and development. So they're just waiting. So that's the problem right now. The world is really concerned. So unmanned combat aerial vehicles may come into that act, but they are there. The Europeans have got, the British have got the Taranis going, the French have got the Neuron going, the Americans have got 2-3 of them. X-47B is the most famous of them.
Okay, we'll get to how far along are we as far as this technology is concerned maybe in the next round, but before that let me bring in the General into the picture. General, so like the AVM just pointed out, warfare as we know it is changing. That having been said, are we going to see more such vehicles in the near future?
The trend is, initially when these UAVs came into play, and I remember, when we got the first UAV, Searcher Mark 1, during Operation Parakram, we were very fascinated because the amount of information that you could gather from it was fantastic. But now the trend is shifting from the ISR, that is intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, towards armed and combat. And as we find, the emphasis today is on that. And that's why India itself is also trying, like you said, the Heron TP, which can be armed. But today India is capable, looking at this, because having been now part of the MTCR, before that these countries were not able to give you anything. Even we are looking at the Predator class from the US now. Therefore, this is going to increase. In fact, I feel there may be some percentage of UCAVs which are only UCAVs, and the others dual purpose, that is ISR as well as the armed versions. As far as the country is concerned, there, imagine a country like Pakistan has got a Barak UCAV, which is extensively used in its tribal areas. The China, on the other hand, has got a couple of them, the Kai Hong series and the Wenglong 1 and 2, which are armed. And as per reports, what I have read is that the Barak may be a Kai Hong, copy. And the Wenglong, there is some talk of their selling 48 of them to Pakistan, which will be a cause of concern. I just want to bring out, yes, we are looking at the UCAVs of the future, which are going to have a greater survivability, autonomy, and as well as endurance, and capability to carry more weapon systems. Endurance means it can stay in the air for a longer time and controlled by people sitting thousands of miles away. Lastly, I just want to highlight 3 incidents. We saw what happened with Soleimani, the Iranian general who was killed. Look at the lethality and the accuracy to get the guy who was in a particular vehicle. We know what, with not as sophisticated UCAVs or armed drones, what the Iranians, in Yemen, the Houthis have done with the Saudi oil facilities. So this is, like AVM Bahadur brought out, it is going to happen. And India, as of today, we are far behind.
Okay.
Though DRDO, the Ghatak project, which is supposed to be a UCAV, stealth UCAV, which is DRDO is working on, it's not yet on the scene, but they are working on it. And at least we are making a headway to try and do catch up with the others. But the Chinese are way ahead. And sure. I want to just highlight one thing. After the US today, is the Chinese who are heading in a big way in research and development on UCAVs. Right.
Okay. So some issues for us to be concerned about, to be worried about going forward is what both the retired army men, retired military men are speaking about. But, so in that sense, let me bring you to the picture now. As far as this technology is concerned, as far as India is concerned, why is it that we are lagging behind? What do we need to do going forward?
That's a $1 million question, because you see the kitty that you have or the resources that you have is not unlimited, and you have competing demands. You have competing demands on healthcare, education, and you name it what. As a country, therefore, we have to decide and prioritize. What do we need first? And in that, as both the veterans who have spent their entire life doing this, we have to decide who's our enemy and what is our political objective at the end of the day. From what we understand, we are not going to be an expeditionary force as yet. Our requirements are not there. We need to take care of the Indian Ocean region. We need to take care of the border. We need to keep our internal security in place. Having said that, with the kind of resources we have, yes, we need to do the research. Yes, we need to know it. But the question is, do we put everything into it? Or if we don't have it, do we feel that, are we in a situation, oh, we are dead? I don't think so. Because given the threats that are there and given the professional military that we have, maybe we do not have the best of equipments. But as of now, we are more or less edge to edge. We can take care of the threats, and that is the most important thing.
Okay, all right, taking the discussion forward now. So let's talk about our requirement really as far as UCAVs are concerned. How many do we need? The general pointed out to the fact that Pakistan has them. Other countries too have them. So what is it that we need, and what kind of vehicles do we need, and how many do we need in our forces? AVM.
Okay, if I may, just one point regarding the money which you said, like Sudhi brought out, where do we get the money from? I think the way to go forward is collaboration with the private industry. There are private entrepreneurs in India, and luckily, and the good part is that HAL has tied up with one firm, and the name is New Space Research.
But do we want this kind of technology in private hands?
Why not? That's the mistake I think we did in earlier years. They are as nationalistic, if I can say, as Indian as we people in uniform. They must be trusted. If we are willing to buy a missile or armament from a private entity from abroad, why not our own private players be brought into this? That's the only way forward. Because all our public sector undertakings are oversubscribed. The order books are full for the next maybe 10, 15 years, depending on what you're talking about. HAL, maybe 20 years. You've got to get the private players in. And in the UAV and UCAV market, let's be blunt, our people in the private sector are much ahead in terms of their technology. The famous three-idiot quadrocopter, it's by a firm in Pune. And that's been bought by the Air Force, I think by the Army also, certainly by the BSF, I know. So we've got to encourage them. Now coming to your point, which you raised about the numbers and the types. We have the ISR type of UAVs, all three services, basically Israelis. We had initially the Searcher 1s, which I think must have been phased out by now, Searcher 2s, and then came the Herons. Various versions the Air Force, Army, Navy has got. Do we need more? Yes. Numbers, maybe it's in hundreds, but distributed amongst the three classes of medium altitude, high altitude, and the smaller ones, and also on the weight class. So there is a huge market available in India for our own industry, our own indigenous industry, to come up and supply them. And it's a good sign that in the small UAV segment, a number of startups have come up and have been successful and are being encouraged by the government. I've given you the numbers, that there are three different types, they are required, and now these are all ISRs that I'm talking of. Now when you come to the combat vehicles, the unmanned combat vehicles, the UCAVs, that is something, to my understanding, would require an expertise and a financial backing, which a single private firm may not have to do its own R&D, because our procurement rules are such that we are not sure that I may do the R&D, but somebody else may get the contract because of the DPP. So hence there has to be that little change in rules, that people who do this R&D are backed up by the government money, by the finances. And that's where I say that the UCAV project that the HAL is going up to with that Indian firm or maybe other firms that may come up is the way to go. That's the way to go.
Okay.
Heron TP, as I said, is an armed UAV, and that, to my understanding, should be lead-in step to the UCAV that we are thinking of at a later stage.
Okay, all right, General. On the issue of collaboration now, so your thoughts firstly on collaborating with the private sector, because I saw you shaking your head when the AVM was making his point, and I think you have a contrary view to what the AVM has just voiced out. And also, what about collaborating with other countries, with other private entities? What is it that our experience has been over the years?
See, we have been very wary of collaborating with other countries when it comes to defense, and that is why we have suffered. When you say make in India, I mean, make in India is all right, but no country is going to give you the technology, advanced technology, and UCAVs are not, simple or plain technology which can be copied and done. It has to be in collaboration with a country which has the expertise to make UCAVs, and for that, the FDI and other things will have to be discussed. That's the government to take a call. But the way forward is only this. It has to be collaboration. As far as private sector is concerned, today it is only now, in the last 2 years, we've opened up even for making ammunition. We are short of ammunition in the entire armed forces because we were not letting the private sector come in. Why? Sensitive problem. It can create, getting into the wrong hands. Now we are opening up on that. While I certainly feel the private sector has the capability today, and we have seen, look at the type of guns they have made. I mean, not one. There are 3 of them who have come out with the best gun that, we have been looking around and carrying out trials. But they need backing, and backing can only come with the PSU, public sector also. DRDO has got, it was called Aura. That technology they tested it, and now they've gone for the, the production or the development of this Ghatak, so-called UCAV, which will also have stealth. So it has to be a combination of the public sector undertaking and this. And I think that is the way forward. Otherwise, in isolation, neither the public sector nor the private sector. And if we have to do that make in India, we have to open up and get that. One thing about technology, technology is moving, the swarm technology. You must have seen, I think it was last year, the Chinese flew 1,000 micro mini UAVs. This is the most dangerous thing happening now. As far as, I won't call it a UCAV, but these are armed. You can arm some of them. You can put different payloads, and once they're airborne, it's very difficult to get hold of them. This is a technology, and we are nowhere near. It is China, it is the UK, and it is the US, which is heading. So on technology front, even these micro mini, we saw what happened in Punjab and Jammu, in Narnia, recently in Narnia, where a UAV from the other side has landed with weapons on board. So private public sector is the answer, and we need to go forward, but not private alone in sensitive technology which involves. It can be there. I mean, this is my take.
Okay, all right. Talking about collaborations, Surya Sen, as far as our collaboration with Israel or some of the other countries are concerned, what has our experience been?
It's been a mixed experience, and if you look at the nuclear, the strategic field, we have been very good, and we have been extremely good, in the sense that we have been able to manage a nuclear submarine, whereas we struggle to make a conventional submarine, or we are, in the process of building. So we have really taken a leap there. So there have been bright spots in various areas, and there have been dark spots. So mixed bag, yes, but coming down to everything else, as the General was saying, and as the AVM was also pointing out, yes, private technology is there, but who's going to give you that technology? Because people spend billions of dollars on R&D, and it cannot come free. And therefore, we again come to the question of chicken and egg. Where do you invest? What do you invest on?
Absolutely.
Can I just come up with
yes,
this?
AVM.
Just yesterday I read, there's a very good article in Mint, Live Mint, of November, of a company in Bangalore. Can I take the name of the company?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. It's called Tonbay Avionics or Visionics or something. They are making optic systems, sensors. They struggled with us. They sold their equipment to the Israelis and the Americans. They bought it, and then we woke up and now we are buying it. They are there in Def Expo. So the point at issue is, I slightly differ. When it comes to electronics, when it comes to sensors, our private players, let me assure you, are good. Point is to get them on board, support the finance. In India, the finance is costly. These are small players. The cost of finance for them is something that they just can't go through with the red tape that exists. If they take a loan, they have to return it, otherwise they are sunk. So there has to be some thinking in the government to identify these people and support them, really support them with funds. And there are enough startups who are doing this. There is one startup right here outside in Greater Noida, which is actually doing tremendous work in terms of UAVs, for example.
Sure.
So I personally feel that enough expertise exists in niche technologies amongst the private players.
Okay, all right. Time now to get concluding remarks from all my guests, starting first with you, General. So as far as payloads are concerned, you raised a point about payloads earlier. So what is the kind of payloads that we would require or we would like to see on our UCAVs?
See, first of all, UCAVs have to have the ISR payloads. That, I mean, without that, they can't reach a place or, find a place. Then comes to armaments. Like the AVM had brought out earlier, must be able to carry missiles, bombs. I mean, a mix of this thing, depending on the task the UCAV has to carry out. The other thing is that the UCAVs, I mean, the technology where it is going ahead today is longer endurance, greater survivability, and more autonomy. And that debate about man-unmanned is still, it still goes on. It can't be, I also agree with him that it can't be just the UCAVs. It has to be a mix. Only then this solution will work. My only, in the concluding I want to tell is, while all this is taking place, there is also a technology for anti-drone. How do you get hold of these guys when they're coming? So that's a very important sector where countries are already working. And I was glad that in a seminar which I attended about a week back, that there are a lot of companies also working on this anti-drone technology.
Right.
So that's the way forward.
Okay, all right. What's the best way forward then, Sudhir?
The other thing, while I agree with what the AVM was saying, the other thing that we need to look at is also, all military technologies or most military technologies also have spin-offs. The classic case being internet, built for the American military to communicate, and now it has become the lifeline. So, in getting the private sector in, yes, there will be civilian spin-offs to that. A simple thing like unmanned aerial vehicle can also help you say, guide traffic better if you just change the configurations of it. But we all need to agree that while we have niche technology, while we have extremely good people at various places, bright spots being there, somehow one gets the feeling that we are not just going to being able to pull everything together and put the jigsaw perfectly. And that, I guess, it's for the government, Make in India, great initiative, slowly rolling out. We are seeing initiatives. We need to keep going. That's all that I would say.
Okay, all right. And AVM, close the show for us with the concluding remarks.
Taking off from where Sudhir said, somebody has got to have the overall picture. We seem to be pulling in different directions. As you said, bright spots in various places. But who's got the overall plan? And I personally feel the time is well past. Actually, we should have done this maybe 3 decades back, of having an overall system. People call it Aerospace Commission or give it whatever name. But who's got the big picture? Where should Indian aeronautics go. And when I talk of aeronautics, it's just not military, but it's also civil, because the amount of civil aviation that is going to increase, and UAVs in civil sector. Maybe the numbers will be much more in the civil sector, the plain UAVs, not the armed ones. So spin-offs from there, making sure that since we are buying in numbers, we use the power of quantity to get technology in. So the big picture has to be brought in. And before I close, just 2 days back, the United States Navy flew the one F-18 fighter, controlling, the pilot in there controlling 2 F-18s which were unmanned. Okay, so imagine that's where the world is going. That is a full-fledged fighter aircraft with the type of load it can carry. So without a pilot, these two guys can go ahead into harm's way.